Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live once again from Fredericksburg, Texas. Hey, what's going on out there today? In there today? Getting a bit of a late start. I've readjusted my sleeping patterns and habits, which has been a very interesting development in my world. For a very long time, I was a night owl. I was a total night owl. Let me just go over to the YouTube side of things. Let's see what's happening over there. Yeah, we got it going on there. Let's see. We've got Judy. Good morning. Hey, there's Joni. Hi, Joni. Paulette. Good morning, Paulette. And F77. Beth Berry. Good morning. Good morning. Isla. Hey, Steve. Nice to see you. Phoebe and Luann. What's happening, Luann? Hello, hello. Good morning. There's the Justice of the Peace, Justice Moody himself. Nice to see you, Justice. And oh, there's Raven. Raven's always first. She's always the first to pop in. Hey, Raven. And there's Michael. Good morning, Michael. What's going on? What's happening? Here we go. Let's play the sucker. Turn the volume down. We should be getting contact here pretty soon. Let's see what's going on over. Yeah, the 15-minute side I think is happening. Yeah, that's happening now. All right, so all the channels are getting synced up. Got one more, so we just get into YouTube. We will refresh there. I'm sure I'm streaming on YouTube now. Getting there. Let's see, we got. Hi, Mary. Yep, there I am. I'm on YouTube. Yeah, I've got to just go through a few little machinations before I click into all the zones. So anyway, just wanted to welcome everybody. My sleep has really changed. When I was a kid, I was a total night owl. My parents had the unfortunate permission to put a TV in my room. Putting the TV in my room at the age of 11, 12, 13, 14, that's I don't know. That's like giving a Catholic priest the keys to Sunday school or catechism or whatever. It's just, I used to watch TV late into the morning hours, which I've shared before with you guys. And that set up kind of a phase of night owlism in my life. And spending, up to, 1, 2, sometimes 3 in the morning, usually around 2, and then getting up whenever I needed to get up. And then, as I got older and my adult habits started kicking in, the sleep became a little bit even more difficult to come by. So I'm trying to re-engineer my sleep specifically for health reasons, so that I can get a longer run on this planet. I had a really great session yesterday with Glenn Streeter, who's going to be with us in October in the Hill Country. Glenn is he's an alternative healer, really on the cutting edge of alternative healing and science and supplements. And this guy is the Sherpa. He's been on Regina's show a couple times. He's been on Rence's show a number of times. I don't know if he's been on Nuri's show. But Glenn's got a really interesting program that runs all these different protocols across all these different levels. So I did that yesterday. It was kind of mind-blowing, and reinforced some of the health stuff that I've been going through, and just trying to, right the ship. And astrologically, I've got Uranus going through my 6th house, which is the house of health, purpose, work, service, healing, all that stuff. So I have a radical reorientation now to my health, and it's been really, really good for me. And it's one of those things where, we have to practice what we preach, and it's really, you got to walk your talk. So if I'm going to talk about taking care of oneself and self-care, radical self-care, and all that, I got to be right there at ground zero. And so this has been a really interesting and good time for me, and just a continued commitment towards that. And I hope that it spills out into your life as well, because you can't do anything unless you've got a clear vessel. And when you got a clear vessel, then life becomes much easier to navigate through. And I was thinking about the story where I was kind of in the grip of I'm right, you're wrong over on Facebook. I got into that moment, and I didn't want to pound the beach. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do in that moment. There's a time for that, but that was not that time. So what I did, of course, is I went out and I sort of broke the moment. But really, the mindset that came to me around that is that we're really, in a lot of ways, very, very. Life is a wonderful paradox, and in a lot of ways, we're very responsible for people, and we're not, right? It's like there's that interesting paradoxical. You're the center of the universe, and you're not. But we are in some ways, right? So let's say, for instance, you do something kind of unconsciously, and you create, you foul somebody's waters, or you create a field of discomfort or dis-ease with another person. I'm saying unconsciously now, okay? That doesn't mean that there are times where you have to say something that might be truthful that may make people uncomfortable. That's something very, very different, okay? I'm talking about the unconscious patterning. And so what happens is that in those moments, if you unconsciously influence somebody and it's more negative, then that person will take that, experience that energy, and then will propagate that throughout the rest of their day. And it will basically become sort of this dark pollination of other people's spirits. So I think it's really, really important that we are as clear as we possibly can be, so that we can have those, so we avoid as many of those moments as possible. And think about what the world would be like if people took accountability for their spirits on that level. Think about how much less stress there would be that we'd be putting on one another. Right? The other side of that is definable limits. Let's say it's coming at you. Let's say it's coming at you. What do? You got to have definable limits and say, sorry, I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm not going to allow this to get into my spirit, right? You've got to filter. That's very important. Now, there are times when somebody may say something that you may need to hear, okay? That's a different discussion. That's a different transaction. And at that point, you say, wow, well, thanks for sharing that. That's a really important share. So it works both ways. If somebody is bringing something to the table and it's rotten, and you cut it off, say, sorry, I'm not participating in this. And if you're in a level of interaction with somebody and you're on automatic pilot, then that can affect that person and the next person. And so we have immense responsibility in a lot of ways. And with that comes a lot of power. People say, well, I don't have any power. Of course you've got power. You have power to influence your world around you. If you're an asshole, you're going to influence the world around you kind of in an assholeian way. And people are going to take that out into the world, and it may not be an exact kind of replication of it, but it'll happen. And again, that doesn't mean you have to be somebody who's like a wallflower. I wouldn't prescribe that at all. But that takes a great deal of discernment and attuning, and this is where we are. in our lives and in the collective. And that goes from inside of yourself to outside of yourself, what's happening with current events, which of course we will talk about, obviously. Speaking of current events, I did have a tweet go viral. Kind of, for me. I don't really use Twitter. I think Twitter's like a padded cell. By the way, speaking of Twitter, Jack Dorsey maxed out on his donations to Tulsi Gabbard. He's got a little crush on Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi's an attractive woman, although I always feel like she's kind of in a trance. I hate to say that. And she is a CFR candidate. You know, I think we got all these people, no matter how bright and shiny and nice, and they've all got ties, they've all got hooks into them. It's just the way it is. So anyway, Dorsey spent over $5,000 in donations to Tulsi Gabbard's campaign. Now you'd say, well, that's not a big deal. I mean, he's rich, he's got the money. The guy runs Twitter. He runs Twitter. So does that mean that he'll be more prone to promoting Tulsi Gabbard through Twitter? Is it a conflict of interest? Tulsi Gabbard has been, I think, unfairly tarred and feathered because she went to go see Bashar al-Assad, the only person in this country who actually flew to Syria to see, you know, the congressmen, and senators. Oh, they'll be more than happy to go to Israel. We'll fly them over to Israel, right? We're more than happy to take that trip. Caveat emptor. Well, this is my new focus aid. It helps me focus. It's actually pretty good. It's got 100 milligrams of natural caffeine. That should be a product placement. Nootropics, Alpha, GPC, yerba mate, green tea, B complex, GABA. American ginseng, not that made in China ginseng shit. Acetylcarnitine, rhodiola rosea, and vitamins C and D. I love this stuff, actually. It's pretty good. It's like the clean version of Red Bull. Excuse me while I finish it. Okay. Now I can focus. She went over to Syria. Nobody else went there. It's just ironic. I mean, the whole idea of statesmanship, diplomacy, it's just all gone. I mean, in some cases, that was kind of a genteel facade anyway. Now everything's just getting ripped apart. It's like, look at the guts of everything. Oh, nasty. The entrails are hanging out all over the place, which is true. I mean, this is what's happened with Epstein. We're starting to see the entrails kind of hanging out of the carcass of the 20th century, right? Because most of the stuff went down in the 20th and early 21st century. Did you guys catch that video with Trump and Epstein at Mar-a-Lago? That was at Trump's place. And Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, she should actually be the new 007. You know, forget this other woman, what's her name? Latasha Lynn or Lasha Lynn or whatever her name is. They should just cast Ghislaine Maxwell. She's really that woman is a full-blown spy. She can fly a jet. Who do you think was flying that jet when they were flying over there? She can fly a jet. She can fly a helicopter. She can pilot a submersible. Ghislaine Maxwell is 007. They should just make her the next 007. Because you know they're going to be replacing Daniel Craig, who I think is a terrible 007 anyway. Oh my God. I think he's terrible. He's just terrible. I'm sorry. One is short. Sorry, I have heightism when it comes to 007s. He's short. And they had that one 007 where he fell in love and then it was just, I watched this thing. I stopped being interested in 007 stuff. Like, I could really give two shits, to be honest with you. I just noting it from a place of social commentary. But they had this one where he actually fell for the woman, and she double-crossed him and got him set up into this torture thing where they were, like, bashing his testicles. I'm like, are you kidding me? When did this ever happen to 007? I mean, clearly it was a commentary, big time commentary about the state of men and how even 007, the guy who was invincible, who had a bulletproof heart, he took off his protective vest around his bulletproof heart, fell in love, and look what happened. He gets his balls beaten around like like a punching bag. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. I watched it. What is going on here? Well, we don't have to worry about that anymore because 007 is going to be a woman. Now, he may still be James Bond, but she's getting the 007 moniker. I don't care. I don't care. It was funny. Glenn and I were talking about this the other day, and he said, doesn't make Idris Elba look all that bad now, does it? I thought that's funny, because Idris Elba was supposed to play the next 007. They skipped him. They said, nah. Let's really double down. Let's triple down. Let's turn it into a woman of color. And speaking of women of color, Trump is tripling down himself when it comes to the big four. Those are now the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about, like, first of all, life is complex. These scenarios are complex. They're not always black and white, although people would like them to be black and white. You have to pull them apart and see what's going on and try to our best ability to have an x-ray and look at that event through x-ray eyes. And how I see that event, or how I see what's happening, is that number one, Trump is being extremely cagey. We talked about this before. I think it was Sticks. By the way, I used to see Sticks being recommended all over YouTube. That ain't happening. No. He used to show up on my feed all the time. Doesn't show up on my feed at all. Does not show. And I even subscribe to the guy. It's not showing up. YouTube, what a joke. Anyway. So what Trump basically has done is he's forced the Democratic Party to embrace them when at a time they were trying in some ways to rationally sort of create a sense of distance. And he basically forced them to, like, these are your kids, you're their parents, do what all parents do, which is unconditionally love your child, even if it fucks up. You wrap your arms around the kid and say this is my kid. I don't support what they did, but it's my kid. I love my kid. I want my kid. I mean, that sort of thing, right? However, Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats didn't say we don't support. They had to say we support our kids. And what they did say is, well, Trump's racist. So as a result of this, he did something, pretty brilliant. He controlled the narrative. He controlled the narrative. Do you know how hard that is, especially when the other side, the theoretical other side, has these attack dogs who are always trying to control the narrative, always on the offensive, always on... Well, Trump just went right on top of them and just dive-bombed it and doubled down and tripled down. And it was pretty... In a strategic way, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And now they're just showing all their cards now. They're just showing all their cards, and it's not real pretty in a lot of ways. Now okay, so when you drill down, you look at all those people that are part of that group, like the four horsemen. Right? They're all very different in some ways, and I think they have different agendas, although they are sharing similar motivations. I think Ocasio-Cortez's agenda is to, and I know a lot of people say that she was put in there by the Republicans. I don't believe that. I don't really believe that. But her agenda is to move the United States consistently towards the left further and further, create more polarization, and be a part of an energy script that will flip the paradigm and go from kind of one model to another model. Okay, that's what she is there to do. Tlaib is there to do something similar, but she has a vested interest in her ethnicity, in her background, which is she's Palestinian. And she's probably pretty fucking pissed off that her family, her bloodline, her group have basically been turned into an apartheid state by the occupiers since 1948. She's got a beef. She's got a beef. If that happened to your family, your group, your people, would you have a beef or not? You probably would. Does that make her a socialist or a Bolshevik? She sees Donald Trump as being pro-Israel again and again and again. And all she sees is contempt for the man, because those are the people that essentially turned her group, her tribe, her people into third-class citizens and living every day into deeper and deeper into kind of this feudalistic despair. Okay? It's medieval despair. I get it. I totally get it. But I think they're going about it the wrong way. That's another discussion. Ayanna Pressley, I think she is in the Ocasio-Cortez camp. May have come through the same pipeline that Pakhrajati, that guy, that he brought her in. And again, it's to flip, right? It's to flip the paradigm and go from a theoretical republic, which we're really, sort of limping along as a republic, into a full-blown socialistic, communistic, model. And then you have Ilhan Omar, who went through that whole Somalian thing, and then, they talked about Black Hawk Down and how many people died and how many Somalians, were killed. If you've never seen Black Hawk Down, I highly recommend that movie. I actually think it's one of the best war movies ever made. And I've seen a lot of war movies. It's one of the best ones, just in terms of authenticity, realism. Now, the whole thing with Black Hawk Down was that that was the UN. It was UN forces. So these were divisions of the American armed forces, along with other countries, that were going in to insert themselves into a civil war in Somalia. And there was a bunch of arms that were getting in, and there were hardcore Muslim factions that were sort of taking over at that time. And the UN sent these troops in as peacekeeping forces. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to go in and surgically remove this Muslim leader, the Somalian. And the mission went bad. It went bad. Because copters went down, hence the name Black Hawk Down. And it was a ugly firefight. And there were a lot of lives lost on the Somalian side, a lot of lives lost on the American and UN side, not as much. It's been a topic of conversation. But again, who was in charge of that? It was the UN. It was UN forces, and the United States was part of that. So it's an interesting movie. So I think it was one of the best movies of Sam Shepard's career. And the photography, it's a Ridley Scott movie. The photography is kind of amazing. Anyway, she comes from an area that has been absolutely torn apart, ripped asunder, and a lot of it had to do with these NGOs and this kind of ongoing program to keep Africa in a place of destabilization. Now, I don't know what Ayanna Pressley's beef is, and I certainly don't know what Ocasio-Cortez's beef is, except that she can't make enough money to afford her apartment in D.C., condo in D.C. I think that's her big beef. But Tlaib and Omar come from situations and places where the United States and the military-industrial complex, and NGOs, multinational corporations, they've all come into play. They've all had a kind of an intense role to play the destabilization or the lockdown of the places that they came from. Now, in the case of Ilhan Omar and Tlaib, they're actually in better places than they were. They're better places. And the question now becomes, can somebody be respectful and grateful and still be a voice of dissidents? Can they offer a different perspective? And I think the answer to that is yes. But they haven't learned how to do it. They've been schooled in a certain polemic, which is be on the attack. Right? It's kind of an Alinskyite move, be on the attack. What they haven't done is they haven't fully integrated kind of who they are and where they are. Because if they fully integrated who they are, where they are, Ilhan Omar could say, first of all, let me just say, I'm very grateful to be in this country. I'm very grateful to be in this country. This country has given me all these opportunities, blah, blah, blah. And as a result of being here and where I came from, I think I have a unique perspective. And here's my perspective. I'm here to show you, the American people, that what takes place in countries like Somalia isn't always what your news corporations purport it to be. Right? I mean, I think that there's a place for that. I think there's a place for her to bring her experience or what her understanding is into the public forum and discuss it. Same with Tlaib. Like, this is supposedly what we're able to do here in this country. The problem is their approach has been antagonistic and polarizing. And you'll never get anywhere, really, unless you want to create a dynamic of polarization, of chaos, and then go in and then kind of manipulate and move people around. In which case, it's a very suitable strategy if that's what you want to do. But they're freshmen. Like, they just came into office. And they're already dropping grenades all over the place. And quite frankly, it's backfiring on them. And Trump is using that. Now, conversely, Trump, again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you into the layers here. Okay? They're starting off at a place where they're already alienating people. And you can't do that. You can, your side can go, yeah, go get him, girl. Right? But at the end of the day, if you want to be really effective, you've got to be able to broadcast your message to the widest group possible. And that's not always easy, especially since we're so damn polarized right now. Anyway. But I would say, to some extent, that they have a beef. How they've voiced that and basically said, we're going to make... Like, Tlaib, when she goes and said, we're going to impeach that motherfucker, are you kidding me? You're basically disqualifying yourself even before you stepped foot in the halls of Congress. Okay? You've totally disqualified yourself. The better approach would have been, I'm going to listen to you, people, and I'm going to work for you, and I'm never going to forget where I came from and the conditions that my family has suffered, and I promise you I will be a witness and a representative to that experience. Right? I mean, but they're young, and they're Pluto and Scorpio, so Pluto and Scorpio tends to be extreme. The other two, Presley and Ocasio-Cortez, it's a different story. I mean, they're full-on Bolsheviks, and maybe they're all tied together because of that. Anyway, what Trump did was he polarized them, froze them out, and he said, "Look, if you don't like this place, and this is what every American basically has been wanting to hear for a long time, right? what every American wanted to say for a very long time. And their guy was able to say it. The Vox Populi was able to say it. And he said it not once, not twice, 3 times. He's doubling down. So he has become the Vox Populi, saying things that everybody thinks. This is why he got elected. He tapped into their tongues and untied them. Okay, that's why he's popular. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. And if there is a threat, an internal threat inside the country, which I do believe there is, by the way, then you need to smoke it out and stamp it out and get it out, because it's been hanging around for far too long. I don't have a problem with that. But then what he does is then he brings Israel into it, and it says our great friends and this and that, and then there's a debate about 9/11, which Ilhan Omar begins to bring up, and then Trump has to double down. Oh, something did happen on 9/11. Oh, it did happen on 9/11. Oh yeah, really, Donald? What did happen on 9/11? Well, I'd love to figure that one out. Well, actually, I kind of have, but I'd love for you to explain that to people, right? But he is tripled down, quadrupled down with Israel so much that in order for him to untangle that, well, people go, wow, what happened to you? You know, did you become a socialist? Did Jared get to you? Did Ivanka get to you? I mean, that's what would happen. So, can't do that. But you see, again, using Israel as this kind of moral cornerstone. Oh, how dare you? How dare you speak in such ungodly terms? You're anti-Semitic, and on and on and on, right? Which is a trope that the left uses. It has for a long time. Toward the white nationalists, right? And so Trump has reclaimed that. And now he's using that trope, the kind of ad hominem attack. He's a crafty guy. He's sly as a fox. Sly as a fox. And what's going on underneath the surface of this Epstein thing, we're still dealing with the ramifications of that. There was that video that popped up 2 days ago. I think it was Morning Cup of Joe, Scarborough and Minka, is that her name? Brzezinski's daughter. They're together, right? Could you imagine that? Being with your working partner and life partner like all that time. It's really intense. It's very intense. A lot of intense. Anyway, the video is interesting. It's at Mar-a-Lago, and he's there with Jeffrey Epstein, and he's talking to him, and Epstein's cracking up. I mean, they've got a buddy relationship. There are all these models there, and Trump flew all these models in. Look, the guy was a playboy. It was 1992. He was a playboy. He was a New York playboy. That's what he was. And he had the power to fly all these models in and have a dance party. What are you going to do? If you're trying to be the king of New York, that's what you do. And you invite your friends and you flex a lot of power, a lot of muscle. Status. It's a status play. Although I got to tell you, I have to say, Trump looks pretty wired. Pretty wired. The way he's talking with Epstein, pretty wired. Trump had a lot of energy that night. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, it's clear that he had a relationship with Epstein. But Trump has a way of disassociating himself from people. He's good at that. Like he did that with Julian who? Who's that guy? WikiLeaks? I think I've heard of it. What's that about? Epstein? Oh yeah, I think I met him once or twice. Yeah. We live in interesting times. We live in very interesting. But I think what Trump did was kind of masterful. It was masterful how he. But again, I'm just trying to show you the level of complexity here, because life isn't always, it's not always black and white. It's not always what it seems to be. And then there's layers below that and layers below that. So it's an interesting experience that we're in, and that goes for daily living as well. So I had, like I said, I had a tweet go viral yesterday. What about that? So the tweet was that graphic that I put up here that had to do with the story hour in Atlanta, and I shot that off to Jason Whitlock, and he got a hold of it and he put it up on his Twitter feed. And man, I looked at my Twitter feed, I got like 40. I was like, whoa, that's a lot for me. You get 40 people like retweeting or putting, it was interesting. I had no commentary about it. I just gave it to Whitlock, and he took off with it. I like Jason, but he catches a lot of shit, but I like him a lot. All right, we've got about 3 minutes left in the show today. Let me check in with everybody, see what's happening. Let me check in with Chatlandia. What's going on? Jews are not Semitic people. That is correct. Michael, Psycho Joe had intern laying on Joe's desk, cracked him. Yep, dead woman in Joe Scarborough's office. That's right. Omar is 10 years old and she came to USA. In other words, she didn't know shit about the Somali war, except for info shared from her father. That could be true. That could be true. Carmelo 12. I don't have a problem with that. Trump has lots of energy because of Melania. 9/11 was Assad let off. Absolutely. I think the Saudis were in on it as well. Look, even if she was 10 years old, right? It still happened. What happened in Somalia and the intervention. I just here's what I think. I'm not here to support Ilhan Omar and her theoretical takedown of the country. I'm not here to do that. What I am here to do is to shine a light that there's been a lot of fuckery going on in Africa for a very long time. And the Somalis have been at risk for a very long time with these ideological wars and destabilization, the creation of chaos. That's all I'm saying. Okay? That's all I'm saying. And that's the thing that does not ever get talked about. Never gets talked about. So, and again, I think her approach should be more respectful, more integrated, versus tearing the fabric of the country apart. But I also believe that she has the right to say what she says, because that's America. That's where we are. Okay, I'm going to get on out of here. Use your head and discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. We'll be back tomorrow with the Friday Forecast. It's 12 noon over on the other channel, on the 11th House channel. In the meantime, just be conscious and aware. Remember, you have a lot of power. You have a lot of power, more so than you actually really know.